Looks like it's working. Alrighty then. Well, this video title is pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? Basically, this is a reminder of why my channel exists. To promote enlightenment, I guess you could say. Now, what we have here is the title reads, "My daughter was assaulted at school today. The school refuses to act. What are my options?" It's a Brexit refugee who moved to live in Sweden. Brexit refugee is a new word to me. So you're a refugee away from Brexit? Because the right wing is so evil that you just have to run away from their policies, like literally run away to a different country? Because they're just so evil, right? I mean, they talk about the fascism of tolerance. What is that? Am I right? Yeah. No, I can definitely see why you would want to run away from right-wing politics to live in a beautiful, enlightened country, reflecting your progressive and liberal ideals. A country like Sweden. Well, what happened when you moved to Sweden, dear British lad? My Swedish for Immigrants class hasn't covered this topic yet. Good cheek. My daughter, 14, was grabbed by two boys in gym class today, held down, and repeatedly groped. The gym teacher did nothing, her class tutor did nothing, and the response I got was, "Boys will be boys." Yeah, isn't it amazing how the most feminine culture on earth, the most feminist country on earth, will still manage to produce the same kind of cliches that were uttered during the infamous Steubenville case? There really is something interesting about the link between feminization, meaning coddling people so much you can never see who's acting like a perpetrator, feminization, and rapey patriarchy cliches. It's interesting how one just leads automatically to the other. Like here, the response is boys will be boys. Well, no, that shouldn't be the response. But that's the response you get in a country based on Marxism. In case you didn't know it, Marxism, or the ideology of equality, is all about making criminals victims. You can see this in any left-leaning country or state in the West, as well as the world, really. So, moving on. Obviously, this is not okay. She is very upset, doesn't feel safe. Yeah, we can assume that part. What course of action do I have? It seems extreme to call the police, but I'm not sure what else to do. Grateful for any help. Now, I'm gonna do a well-favored interpretation, well-intentional, well-intended interpretation here, and just kind of see, that's weird. Extreme to call the police? Maybe he's saying that because you would expect the school to actually do something. In a country that claims to care about women's rights, you would expect the school to actually do something. But they don't. Maybe that's why it seems like, should I really have to call the police? Or this guy is so liberal that it's exactly what it looks like. But he's still a father, so I don't know. You can't judge too much when you're on the internet. Now, this thread was going viral on the internet. There are 1,500 upvotes, 300 comments. Now, this is just a few days ago, and it got locked very quickly. It got locked on the same day. Oh, Reddit being Reddit. Especially when you're on Swedit. This is r/Sweden, the Swedish section of Reddit, where anytime one of my videos is shared on there to promote discussion, the thread gets locked and deleted. Hilarious. I have viewers writing me about how I try to create a discussion here on this very open free speech platform, and this happened. Happens to me all the time. Then again, Reddit is run by China nowadays, if I'm not mistaken. So that also explains it. Let me just see if you guys are getting my audio. Right? Good. Yeah, just want to make sure everything is working as it should. I figured we would read some of the comments because this is Swedish people on Reddit reacting. And what do they have to say? The guy asked the question, I want to check cultural differences and all that. Is calling the police an appropriate response in Sweden, or is that seen as an overreaction? I don't think it is, but I'm just wondering if the police here engage on these locker room incidents or not, because in the UK they do nothing unless you're literally caught in the act. Well, I guess there's not that much of a cultural difference then, now is there? It's not an overreaction, some random Swede says. Most teachers would take this super seriously. Well, now you got me triggered. How about that? Most teachers would take this super seriously? I think someone doesn't have any experience with teachers, perhaps. So, see, the reason why I wanted to talk about this and highlight what's going on here is because this is really what you can expect as a parent if you're going to be moving to Sweden. It just kind of is, right? Sorry, got a little message here. This is exactly what you can expect as a parent in Sweden. You shouldn't ever expect the feeling that there can be justice for your children or that society is somehow on your side, because you're living in a liberal utopia now, and that's pretty much how things work around here. This is a good example of a very average, typical Swedish school with very average, ethnically Swedish, typical teachers doing what teachers are good at doing, which is nothing. I've been bullied on several occasions in my life, in different venues, different schools, different classes, different ages, and every single time there's been a Swedish teacher present, looking me right in the eye and doing nothing. Every single time. Once I was sitting beside a teacher when it happened in the school aula, auditorium, I think the word is. That's just what happens with bullying in a feminized country. You're pretty much treated like worse if you hit back. Worse or equally bad. So there's no way to win in a conflict if you're doing it the Swedish way. The Swedish way is bend over. That's the Swedish way. Most teachers would not take this super seriously, and you are really... I'm not going to insult you here, but I'm going to consider it extremely tasteless and inconsiderate to spread lies like this about your country. I really would not recommend anyone who plans on having children to move to a country like Sweden. Not only because of what's going to happen with the schools. If your daughter or your boy gets bullied, this is going to be the norm. While they're being brainwashed with social democratic lies and propaganda, because that's the father party of the nation. You're going to have your kid being brainwashed into hating their own skin color and thinking their parents are white, oppressive cis scum, while they're being victimized by, in this case, believe it or not, it's not actually immigrants. Yeah, in another post, the guy who made the topic was saying that one of the boys' name was Edvard. Edvard? Very Swedish name. Yeah, these are Swedish boys acting up, it seems. It's not unheard of. Every group has their rotten apples, but what really defines a country is how society as a large deals with the rotten apples. So in this thread, we're going to see a lot of comments that are talking about how it should be rather than how it actually is. And that's why my channel is more useful than the entirety of Reddit. Just stick close to me and you will be getting off. You seem to have rotten luck regarding who you've contacted thus far. No, it's more like you're the one who's lucky if you get taken seriously. Calling the police is very reasonable here, as well as contacting the school principal. Contacting the principal, huh? That's hilarious. We're gonna see how often that one comes up. You need to call the police. It's not okay at all. You're reacting sane, even if there are no witnesses and the boys deny it. It should never be swept under the rug. If this goes nowhere, contact the media. Well, there are witnesses, and the boys will deny it. And it still gets swept under the rug, because what the police usually do in Sweden is think like a Swede and say, he says something else though. He said he didn't mean to do anything bad and nothing happened, so, I mean, really it's word against word, and that's the common reaction from cops. It is not an overreaction. This is actually good advice. You should demand from the principal that the school provides documentation of this case and their actions, a so-called incident report. Yeah, that's the word that gets used. That's actually good advice. This paper is important for future reference. It will be much easier to claim compensation, etc. In my kid's school, the boys ran into the girls' changing room trying to steal towels. There was no boys will be boys. They got a stern talking, every parent got an email about the event, and the boys had to have a teacher with them in the changing room for 6 months, and the boys who did it had to have talks with a therapist about what they did and why it was wrong. You got a bad teacher, and that person shouldn't teach. There's always one of these assholes. Whenever you bring up a common problem in Sweden, there's the mandatory, well, it didn't happen to me, so you must be some weird statistic. Yeah, thanks for gloating about how better off you are and how amazing your country is, and trying to make it sound like it's just one bad teacher. No, most of your Swedish teachers are bad, as most of your Swedish parents are bad, because they don't know shit about raising or disciplining children. That's why you're so rude as a people. To everyone, really. There's always one of these. Now, I don't know where you live. I don't know if you're on good terms and have an extra good social connection with the principal and the teacher. Stuff like that will affect matters in small town incest, global incest village, Sweden. I don't know what your social relationships are. I don't know where you live. I don't know if you're in a feminist hotspot or not. So let's not assume that your beautiful story here is an ideal, because if it was, I literally wouldn't have a channel filled with so much content to comment on. Calling the police is absolutely the appropriate response. Yes, Sweden is a country that takes sexual assault very seriously. Oh, do you? Well, let me tell you a different story. I love how this guy in the next sentence goes, it's hard to get convictions, as it's often a case of he said, she said. Yeah, please tell me how seriously you take sexual assault when it's so hard to get convictions. I literally have... This was a few years ago, Uppdrag Granskning, SVT, it's a very solid source. Looked into it. Only 1 out of 10 rapes in Sweden, reported rapes, lead to prosecution. Prosecution is not a conviction. Prosecution means that there's a trial. It's not a conviction. Those are two separate words. The fact that only 1 out of 10 reported rapes makes it to trial in Sweden indicates that you, sir, are a naive dumbass who's spreading false propaganda like every other Swede who gets to talk about Sweden. And it's giving me such a headache that they're trying to spread this virus globally. First of all, if you want to avoid situations like this, people like this, mentalities like this, then learn that the quickest road to sanity and common sense is by looking at what a Swede does and then not doing what they do. You will preserve an entire nation just by doing the opposite of what a Swede does. So think about that. Don't listen to these people. Listen to people who got the facts instead, like me. And here's an even worse number I came across that just boggles my mind every time I read about it. There are municipalities in Sweden. Take, for example, Karlskrona County. During the years of 2016 to 2018, 40% of rape reports were shut down by police without the suspect even being interrogated. Police in this country don't even care about interrogating the rapist when women come in. They just drop it because they're lazy. They have bad work ethic. They have a very Swedish work ethic. They're lazy. Up to a third, it's common in Swedish counties and municipalities that up to a third of rape reports lead nowhere because they don't even talk to the suspect. They don't even talk to the suspect before they claim nothing bad happened here, word against word. We can't do anything. Not even talk to the guy. I mean, oh my God, what if he gets traumatized and offended? Dude, we can't do that. So let's just say it's not a rape and our country looks better. It doesn't look like a rape utopia anymore because we didn't even talk to the suspect. So you can't prove that nothing was done. That's Marxism for you. This is also why you have to understand Me Too, at least out of the Swedish context. If this is how lazy cops are in Sweden, then no wonder rape victims are forced to go to social media and bring a few false accusations with them in the stream of very legitimate ones that weren't taken seriously by this guy. So you mean to tell me that Sweden is a country that takes sexual assault very seriously? I guess that's what you get if you listen to a Swede. Then this genius says, it's hard to get a conviction, but always report it. Sexual predators are repeat offenders, and the more reports, the greater the effect. What are you talking about? What effect? What is this constant belief that government is going to solve all your problems? You're telling women to get traumatized and notice how little society cares about them when they go and report that rape in Sweden, and act like it still did something, even if no one cares about it, even if nothing happens, even if there's no signal from society that any harm or wrong was done to you. There's going to be some magical effect where the numbers are going to save us at the end. No, I have a better idea of what to do when you are victimized, and I can't spell it out on YouTube because I'm pretty sure it violates guidelines. So let's just move on. Schools are toothless organizations in cases like these, wherever in the world you go. But that doesn't reflect on our cultural values. Oh, really, dumbass? It certainly reflects on how you people have zero civic... What is that? Zero civil courage. You zero civil courage. I have a video that I'm working on about a guy who took a handicapped person, abused them in public in Sweden, and no one did anything. Okay? Swedish people have zero civil courage. Their prisons work exactly like their schools. Their entire society works like this. Their workplaces work like this. It completely reflects your cultural values. But all you do, and you have this mental trick they do, because they tell themselves they're world citizens. Remember, Swedish people are world citizens, and the whole world looks up to them. Yeah, so they're normal, right? They're a normal Western country. Wrong, they're not. They're not a normal country. No one really looks up to them other than liberals who are eager to walk off a cliff. And you can directly see how this reflects in your cultural values, because your entire culture is about being like a lobotomized kindergarten teacher stereotype that just wants everyone to be nice to each other. You're like that moron teacher in Happy Gilmore that's okay with him eating glue. You're like, I mean, this is such... You people are literally the reason to invent a word like toxic positivity. Don't give me this shit about how great your country is, when this is the common thing with schools in your country, not necessarily every other country. Schools are like these many places in the world because schools are garbage. Just fundamentally garbage. When you have a school like the one in Steubenville, you have this little shithole of a town, and the school becomes like the local brand, and everyone invests in the brand. And it's so important to cover up rapes that happen, like in Steubenville, because the wrong people did it. Oh, it was the school athletes that are going to go to state and make someone notice our little shit stain, and our brand is so important, so let's protect the school and cover everything up. That tendency is just the tendency of a inbred shithole village. And that's why all of Sweden works like that, because it's a tiny country, smaller than any state in America, and it's literally a global incest village. This is why I call it the global incest village. This is why it works like that. But hey, you're at least right about two things. Your kid is bullied, he needs a new school. Yeah, that's usually how they do it here. Your kid hits back, he's the problem. Yeah, that's usually how they do it there. At least there was some level of awareness there. I don't think the point of calling the police is necessarily that anything will directly come of it, but it sends a pretty clear signal to the boy's parents, the school, the gym teacher, to your daughter. Yeah, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. It's all about sending a signal, huh? That's what the cops are for. You know, not actually doing stuff. Yeah. If these are relatively normal boys from normal families, their parents in the best of worlds would solve the problem by themselves to make sure it never happens again. What? What kind of logic is this? If these are relatively normal boys, which they are relatively not in any way for doing shit like this, it's obvious the families can't be normal. And this is not the best of worlds. This is just the world. Why would you write shit like this? This is the problem would solve itself, making sure it never happens again, if you just send a little nudge through the police, who are going to prove that they can't do anything. But they're going to talk to them, and that's going to scare them enough, because, yeah, this is how Swedish people think, and this is why their country is garbage. If anything, they'll just get off knowing that the cops came and they got away with it. And now you can do more shit. Calling the cops is the only correct response, and the school should have done it right away too. Since the school fucked up so badly, they need to be reported as well. I think the school inspection agency is the appropriate place for this. If the perps are too young, the police will leave the case to social services, who will do nothing. This happens all the time. The cops, you call the cops, who say we can't do anything, and they send a tie-dye hag, some hippie asshole college liberal, to solve the problem, which they never do, so nothing happens. Now, just to be clear, there is a good advice to be found somewhere in this mess. Call the police, and we're gonna get to it. Sorry, I can't. My head is swarming with garbage from reading this nonsense. F you for doing that to me. So, if you think I deserve something as a compensation for this liberal headache, you click the video description, you'll find a link tree at the top link, and it leads right to how to support this channel and make sure I never shut up. Which is, if you ask me, a pretty good investment. And also, if you have the sense to go to my merch store and look at what kind of t-shirts I got here, you know what to do if your kid gets bullied. Your kid doesn't have to get bullied, ever. You just buy them a shirt like this. See? This one right here? Yeah, that one. Maybe not appropriate for girls, but, you know, it's something. At least I'm doing more than Sweden to fix the problem. Anyway. This is what happens when you read Reddit at midnight, spontaneous live streams. No, I just decided to get started at midnight. Because I know there's a lot of you out there that are just sitting at home and you can't sleep and you feel bad. And I just felt like giving you something more to feel bad about. I'm here for you. Okay? That's why. That's why. I think he... Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think he made an update post. He did. The parent has made an update post, and we will be getting into that and finding out what has happened, what he decided to do, and so on. First, I'm going to read a few more comments and then get back to the... What is going on? Is this political? Oh, it's political. Yeah. No, it's pretty political. r/cuck Sweden. No, it's just r/Sweden. Important topic you are covering, but your face cam is cropped out of the frame. How about this? Is that better? Yeah, that looks better. Homeschool looking really safe these days. I'll tell you what. Sorry, just gonna go back here in case anyone just dropped in. This is the context we're reacting to. Tell you what, homeschooling is illegal in Sweden. This ties into the whole why I think this is such an important video. Feel free to click like if you think this is an important topic to raise awareness about why people shouldn't move to Sweden. Because if you're a parent, you can expect stuff like this to happen, and you can't do anything about it. Your kid gets victimized while being put through Marxist brainwashing, given all of the worst takes on current events. They literally have mainstream media interpretations being taught as fact in Swedish schools. They have teachers telling students not to vote for the conservative parties because they're gonna set up concentration camps. Can you imagine that kind of toxic positivity constantly going on? Yeah, it's not good for your kids. And on top of that, it's illegal to homeschool your children. So you're not allowed to put them in a more wholesome environment where you can do a better job than the limp-dick Swedish socialist teachers that your children are being taught by. It's illegal. And it can be like a punishable offense, right? So I don't see how letting your kids grow up in Sweden can make them strong, self-disciplined, and decent people. They would have to adapt after what they are surrounded by, sadly. This is the way. Contact police, then inform the principal that you have done so. Yeah, no, that's actually something I wanted to lift here. Here it is. A friend's dad and his child experienced the same thing. See? What did I tell you? First, contact with the school and parents yielded nothing. What did I tell you? You talk to the school, nothing happens. Parents, oh, our little good Swedish boy could never do something like that. Nothing happens. He went to the police and sent principal a copy of the police report and asked basically, where do we move from here? Then they acted. So do the same. This is the best advice I've managed to find in the thread. Numerous people said this. And the reason why is not because the cops are necessarily going to do anything. Notice the wording. You sent the principal a copy of the police report. So that's intimidation, right? You just reported. The report can be dropped. Nothing needs to come of the report, right? So basically here he just pressured the principal into thinking that something was going to happen, and that's why they acted. He had to get a little bit creative, a little bit socially intelligent, something that doesn't exist in Sweden. So that's why that worked, but I wonder what the result was. I wonder how they acted. Sorry to hear your friend went through that. This is the thread creator. What's wrong with these kids? Well, they're being raised by Swedish liberals. That's what's wrong with them. I'll act as you suggest. Thanks for your advice. One follow-up question. Did the police do anything? Or was it simply the fact that there was a report to spur the school? Now here's where we get to the context. I haven't read this yet. Police closed it immediately. since it's children, so it's moved to the social services, but the report itself made things a bit more serious for the school. Yeah, because I've noticed this very often with Swedish people, especially Swedish people who are in any position of power, but doesn't have to be, it can just be Swedish people. You pretty much have to threaten them and make them scared to get them to act like decent people. It's very sad, but it's how things work. You have to go around the system. So here you have Swedish people working in a school. You have two Swedish teachers who saw a 14-year-old get molested and did nothing. You have a principal who doesn't want to do anything but say boys will be boys. So what do? Well, ideally you shouldn't have moved to Sweden to begin with, I guess. But what do? Well, you have to make them feel like the brand is in jeopardy. Start going to outside, get other people involved, spread it out. You can't just... You have these... I've seen them so many times. It's a type. The Swedish teacher, the Swedish principal, with their cocked posture, looking like a Nazi scientist, looking like a batik tie-dye asshole college liberal beatnik hag of a lady. Yeah, I know the type. The brand awareness type. The liberal type. Yeah. What are they gonna do? Other than be a wet piece of lettuce? Well, nothing. They're gonna care about their own ass. They're gonna care about giving out endless second chances so that appearances can be maintained as much as possible. And you can only mess with that process by threatening them and scaring them. So take from that whatever you will. But he demanded a meeting. The report itself made things more serious for the school, but he demanded a meeting with principal and the boss of the principal. It was a privately owned school, a Wallenberg school, not communal. I'm pretty sure that might make a difference, and the way this guy went about it was smart, because he involved the boss of the principal, which is something you have to do whenever you encounter any injustice in Sweden. You appeal over and over again, find out who's above the head of that guy, and just go up, and maybe 2 years later you'll get some justice. Maybe. In your case, make the report so your story gets documented. Any injuries, go to hospital beforehand, and document even bruises. Just tell them my daughter was assaulted, molested, and I'm here to get it documented. Yeah, act like... Why should you have to take this much precaution when there's literally 2 Swedish teachers watching a student get molested? Why should you have to take this much precaution? No parent should have to think like this. But in liberal utopias, they have to. He said the whole thing took him 2 whole days. He had to skip work and drive around, plus a lot of waiting times. Basically just to talk to a bunch of different... It's like Brazil, the movie by Terry Gilliam. It's like Brazil. Just talk to a bunch of bureaucrats and hope justice can be handled like that instead of men being allowed to be men. Yeah. No, that doesn't exist here because we're a civilized country. When the principal didn't move away the molesters, he moved his daughter to another school in the end. But she was molested by a group of 8 to 9 boys and had visible physical injuries from it. She never wanted to see them again because of the trauma, which was inflicted entirely on her by the Swedish people, the way they think, and their rotten culture, allowing things like this to happen everywhere. So even though you gave this guy good advice, it led to nothing. Literally led to nothing. He had to move her away from the school anyway. So all of these Swedish people in this thread giving the same advice, which is you go to that agency and then that agency and that agency. All you're showing is a sick, soulless, desperate trust in government and authority that leads nowhere, which defines your entire culture, defines why you have all of your problems, and you morons are in this thread here just saying the same shit. Inform the school inspection, call the police, report the school, teacher and administration. Oh, but look into changing schools because even though you do the right stuff and you contact all the right people, you're just going to have to make your own justice anyway. So what's even the point of abiding the law at that point? Yeah, talk about just making vigilante justice look legitimate. Call the principal, threaten to go to the media, and of course you should call the police so they can go to the social services and let college liberals solve the problem. Call the police, report it. If the principal does nothing, call the huvudman, like the board of the school or the municipality. Call the city hall, and also call the social service. Yeah, just call a bunch of people. Endlessly. Call a bunch of government agencies. Let it take you 2 days, and then nothing happens. You have to change your kid's school anyway. That's great.
Take 2 days finding out who gives a shit if your daughter was raped.
You get... it only takes you 2 days to find out if your daughter is worth anything in a liberal utopia, and the answer is... Well, I don't want to have to be the mean one to spell it out, so I'm just going to act like a Swede and give you the hint. As a former teacher, that is assault. The PE teacher should have stepped in and been reprimanded and warned for not doing... Yeah, so many should have. I don't give a shit. Okay, the point is, you teachers don't. Ever. It's my experience. It's obviously everyone else's experience. Oh, here we got a good one. The response was boys will be boys. And of course, the mandatory Swede thing to do is call him a liar. I seriously doubt this. Teachers have a responsibility to intervene. If a teacher sucks at their job that much, they don't get to keep it for very long. What are you basing this moron assumption off of? Just your stupid idea of how your shithole liberal shit stain of a country should work with no basis in reality? You just don't want to listen to people who have bad experiences because it threatens your idea that you are the most superior ethnic ubermensch on the world, living in the best country ever, and there are just no problems here, so everyone needs to be jealous of you. That's the emotional equation of the female creature known as the Swede. A lot of brand, a lot of consumerism, very little slow soul, and a lot of cattiness. What kind of a statement is this? You just want to call him a liar. That's insane. You just want to call him a liar. Well, that's why I tend to not talk about personal stuff. What's the point if Swedish people are just going to call you a liar anyway, or give you the wrong kind of advice and act like their country is all good? What I see in this thread is a lot of people protecting their country's image, but not explaining how things actually work. Except they do that by accident, where they say, but then it ended with having to change schools. They leave it up to you to read between the lines so much that you can't listen to a single word they say. They give you advice, and then if you ask them about more detail, you find out why the advice isn't going to work, and why you should just go to the police. Why you should just change schools because going to the police wouldn't work. Insane. Here's someone who contacted the school inspection, and the school inspection says, you start by talking to the school. Talk to a teacher or the principal. The principal is responsible for the kids being supported if they need to. So, here we have the endless loop that is Sweden. Someone took it upon themselves to contact the school inspection. Ah, yes, the highest bureaucracy of moral righteousness. These angels will certainly solve the situation, and what do they tell you to do? Just more of the stuff that you've already done that doesn't work. So, the school inspection is... all of these government agencies is just another Swede talking about how things should work, and when they don't work like that, nothing is done. Because they act like it's so helpless, nothing could be done. So then what? Oh my god. The rest of this text is just instructing him to talk. If you're disappointed with the principal's response, go to the main man. This is literally... the Swedish language is the dumbest language on earth. I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to learn it. There are so many stupid words that you cannot have explained to you in like... you're not gonna... there's so much you won't learn at Swedish for Immigrants. The head man. The main man. The main guy. Yeah. Is the municipality itself. So you're calling the city hall the main guy, the main man. Well, I mean, if it's the main man, you go to the main man. Yeah, who by law owes it to you to take your complaint and then look into it. How about that? He will look into it, and if he finds out that your story isn't the same story as the one you're complaining about, he'll just drop it. Because nothing can be proven. And that's as far as we've come in the halls of justice. Yeah, how liberal, progressive, and developed. Then you go to a website, blah, blah, blah. If you don't like how the municipality handles it, you can report it again to the school inspection. Just make another report. And then they finish with, it's not certain your whatever you have to say will lead to an investigation with us. But it could be valuable, and it can be the foundation of a future inspection. Who knows? I mean, if we ignore 10 complaints in a row and then there's an 11th one, boy, we might actually be compelled to act. Can you believe it? Yeah, this is Brazil. This is why I hate this country. This is why no one should move here. Really make sure your kids have the worst time of their life if you want to move here. You should have stayed in Britain, boy. You shouldn't have fled because of Brexit. Now, let's move on to let's move on to the update. Oh boy, are we gonna have a good time with the update? Yeah, we're gonna move on to the update. Once again, commercial plug. If you just jumped in, look at the link in the video description. Sorry to nag, but man, my donations have been plummeting over the past year. Shadowban and cancel culture is a bitch, so gonna nag a little bit, and gonna remind you that clicking like counts as currency. I appreciate it a lot. Make sure that this video can reach more and more people, and maybe even reach all the normie Swedes on Reddit who are spreading lies about our country. To summarize, if you don't fight for your land your ancestors bled and died for, no one else will. Yeah. There is at least one... Lol, this is some comedy show now. Yeah, I would like to think of the Angry Foreigner show as a comedy show, specifically, because we're gonna be laughing at this. We're gonna be laughing at this, because that is the healthy response. And I mean, more importantly, most of you watching aren't even from Sweden, so you can just feel so much better about the fact that your country could be so much worse. Ooh. There is one good thing about Sweden. Well, to be honest, there are numerous good things about Sweden. That's what makes it so messed up and scary, because the things that are good about Sweden, the things that are comfortable about Sweden, tend to make people get blinded and make up excuses for just tolerate all the things that are so horribly, pointlessly wrong. The bad ends up outweighing the good. So, oh yeah, you can't dox anyone. Someone here suggested doxing the molesters. Well, that's illegal. How about that? Doxing is illegal. The school doesn't want to risk its reputation. Yeah. My wife and I love Sweden, shame on you, but I've decided to move to Norway/Finland because homeschooling is mandatory here. I don't know if it's mandatory, but you're moving because homeschooling is allowed, and you're literally moving away from our families because of our bullshit laws. Yeah. And I mean, who enacted these laws? Who's tolerating those laws? I see a whole collective supporting these laws, voting for these laws, making sure that these laws never go away. So, dox the school. That is legal. Yeah. I've seen alternative media care about this stuff. I've seen, definitely think that if this parent is watching, he should contact Fria Tider, Samnit, or like a good alternative media. They've covered this kind of stuff before. But, I watched all your videos and I loved them. Thank you very much. Showed it to a German friend and he loves your videos too. Keep up the good work. Thanks a lot for sharing my videos. It really makes a great, important difference for me, given how hard it is to reach out with these fuzzy new algorithms. I appreciate it. And I'm not ashamed that a German likes my channel, because Germany is very similar to, I mean, really when we're talking about these problems here, we're talking about Western Europe as a whole is probably the most liberal place in the world, and probably the highest taxes too. The comparison is insane. If you look at a map of taxes in Europe, it's like, oh, anywhere from 30 to 50, usually 50, around 50% most of them, and in America it's like under 10%. Like even the leftist states are hovering around like 10%. Insane. Oh, there you go. Yes, we are facing the same kind of bogus here in Germany. These are tough, developed times we are living in. Now, let's go to the very exciting update of how this story ends. Hi. I posted I posted on Friday about my daughter who was attacked at school last Friday. Many people asked for an update, so I'm posting that here now. First, she's okay. It was a pretty horrible ordeal. The gym class took place outside and away from the campus. The attack happened as the kids were on their way back to school. Part of this journey involved a walk through a forest where the boys lay in waiting. She was on her own when they pounced. She told us straight away and says she feels very supported, especially by how quickly we reacted. Your replies directly contributed to that outcome, so thank you for your help. Man, this guy is way too polite. Secondly, the police are involved, as are the social services. I guess we wait and see what happens now, but that's done. Okay, so I really wish this guy luck, but we've already seen a few comments of similar cases that immediately popped up because this is so common in Sweden. And you should just first do the redneck white trash man thing to do, and then move your daughter to a school where she's gonna be... Well, how do you make sure a school doesn't have a bunch of slimy, spoiled Swedish rapists before you move there? And how do you know if a school has too many problem child ghetto thugs that go there before? I mean, are you supposed to, like, show up as an adult and just creep around the halls and be like, do people look like assholes here? How do I decide? How do you decide schools in Sweden? I don't know. I don't think it matters, because school sucks anyway. So who gives a shit? The important thing is, if you have a child, you teach them martial arts. You take them to a martial arts class, and you make them pick something that works for them. It's very important, especially for young women, to learn enough about how and where to punch someone to at least be able to run away afterwards, right? So, yeah, that can do a lot of good. That can do a lot of good. And it will teach a kind of, they call it pondus here in Sweden. But what it really means is self-esteem and like a grounded energy where people don't mess with you. It creates the ability to handle conflict and really stress and anxiety in general. Put simply, getting the shit kicked out of you is good and healthy for you, especially under controlled circumstances. That's been my life experience as a man who has dabbled. So I recommend it. Because, I mean, if you send your... Don't send her to a karate class. Send her to Muay Thai, send her to brutal kickboxing. I mean, the best thing is Krav Maga if it exists where you are. Boxing works. Kung Fu. Taekwondo. I mean, anything but... anything... Just look up something brutal. Do a little research. Pick the most brutal, similar to a street fight kind of beat people bloody capacity. And go with that. That will be healthy for your kid. Yeah. Because if you do that, your kid can actually handle things more than the cops ever would. Even if they were allowed to intervene with their manginas. Third, the school has still not responded. Wow. I'm choosing to give them the benefit of the doubt given it's the weekend, but still that pisses me off. I will be escalating if needed, but the police report and SOS should force their hand. Okay, so now I see what's going on here. You're choosing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Well, that's what a Swede would do. So sorry, my guy, but you either have Swedish genetics or you have the personality of a liberal. And I might give you the values of a liberal. And that might be something you... I don't know if education helps with the weakness disorder like that. I mean, I'm trying to explain here that this guy clearly feels like too much of a liberal to live in left-wing Britain, which is already kind of a liberal place. He's too liberal to live in Brexit Britain. So he voluntarily goes to Sweden in the year of 2023, even after Trump warned him. And he's choosing to give the most soulless robotic assholes who have only done his daughter harm the benefit of the doubt. I'm not even sure that's like the Christian thing to do. To be that... You know, I'm not even sure a Christian is supposed to be doing that. I don't think that's how you practice benefit of the doubt constructively. I have the contact information for all the people involved in the school's funding, as well as the local education board and local journalists. Good. Use it. Don't sit on it. Again, you guys gave me a tremendous amount of guidance on who to speak to, who to escalate to, and that contact list was built yesterday, so he had to spend a few days working on this, I guess. I should say I'm in sales, and hunting down decision makers is my bread and butter. Getting in front of these people is not going to be a problem now that I know who to approach. Yeah, well, that really gives him an advantage. That's not something the average parent has as a little research talent. Fourthly, a lot of people asked about the ethnicities of the kids. It's a valid question. They were all white Swedish kids, all born and raised locally. There was no racial motive. It was a girl in a vulnerable position and they took advantage. And why am I not surprised? Sweden has the highest rate of incels per capita in the entire world. It has the most feminized, weak, cowardly men in the entire world. I really struggle finding any form of masculinity here, even with the people who claim to be right-wing. I am not surprised at all that two spoiled Swedish middle-class kids would be able to do something like this. It's actually what I expect. In fact, I've had to discipline groups of all white, all Swedish men before in my life when they act rude towards girls, friends of mine, yell things at them just because they're wearing strange alternative clothing. They just harass people in public like that. Yeah, living in this country, you get plenty of reason to punch people in the mouth, so I don't think anyone should be surprised when some immigrant goes and does precisely that. It is very untalked about how spoiled, cruel, uncaring, and selfish Swedish people are. Those are their main cultural qualities, which is why this happened to you, it has happened to other people, and it will keep happening in the future. Southern hospitality really isn't a thing in Western Europe. Let me just put it like that. Being feminized and coddled and spoiled makes men rotten in many ways. The community response to my post was very helpful. Very humbled. Received a lot of guidance. That's cute. Some of you even translated the text on the school inspection site. So much kindness. It was incredible. That's cute. Some of you shared your own experiences. It breaks my heart that you have gone through this. I am equally honored that you shared your story and perspectives, which we've used to inform how we communicate about the incident with our daughter. To those victims who wrote to me, please don't be silent. We all have a part to play in the society that we share. Our safety is a collective endeavor. And boy, oh boy, that couldn't be more true. That's why I'm roasting Swedish culture any chance I get. It's a very misanthropic culture that's unhealthy towards its own people. It will even victimize its own people. So imagine what it does to other people, like this poor Brit who moved here. We all have a part to play. Please don't be silent. And that's exactly why this video is so important. Because now I'm sharing all these stories, and people can choose to live somewhere wholesome if they care about rape. There's a choice. They can do something else instead. There's good people here, folks. Sweden is a wonderful place with wonderful people. Embrace that. Well, that's where I'm just gonna have to correct you. Yeah, you are too liberal for your own good. Let's see if you still think that way in a few years when X amount of more things might have happened to your family. The moderators locked the post for reasons I don't fully understand, preventing me to reply to you all. Please let me know how much we appreciate your help. Well, that's cute. But yeah, no, I share your lack of understanding there. I don't think anyone... No, I don't. We all know why they locked the post. They locked it for the same reason that any one of my videos gets locked. Because Reddit is a stupid place. And especially r/Sweden and Swedit consist of very, very dumb liberal people who will do anything to lie about the country while providing help that leads fundamentally nowhere. We don't know what's going to happen to this guy. We can hope that the police and the social services do what they have never done before. But all at the end of the day really is just a reason to pray. That's the reason. Just the reason to pray.
Take it to church.
The school has been terrible at dealing with bullying. It feels like institutional inaction is their default setting. No, that's the default setting of any Swedish anything. I have worked... I like that word. I think I'm going to steal it. I have worked in numerous different workplaces. I have researched their politics, their infrastructure, their migration board, their police carefully. I have attended numerous of their institutions, the unemployment office, the mental care, the schools, the everything. And what I have seen time and time again is exactly that. Institutional inaction as the default setting. Because to be Swedish is to be morally neutral. That is to say evil. That is to say the end result of too much equality and feminization and socialism in culture and thought as opposed to whatever specific market regulation you want to go on about. Someone's telling him to write a guide, which is going to be necessary. As another poster said, yes, it's almost certain that nobody at the school has seen your messages, and that's to be expected over the weekend, and it's not wrong. Yeah, principals and teachers don't have to be morally responsible for anyone during the weekend, especially not themselves. They can just set up a meth operation, and if it's the weekend, you have to respect that. Hey, the principal wants to grow meth. And you can't disturb him. I mean, he's right to his. Oh no. Well, Bosnian pie. Why did you have to write this? Oh well, look. I'm gonna translate. This Bosnian's thing. Oh, look at there. Regular Svensson kids doing that kind of stuff. Almost like there's idiots of any color out there, but that's probably not gonna enter these Reddit racists' thick skulls. Smiley face. I hate your comment. I don't care if we're the same ethnicity. I hate your smug fucking comment. Oh, the Reddit racists. What are you talking about? Do they exist? All I see on Reddit is liberal taints. That's all that Reddit could possibly be. What are you talking about? Wait a minute, is that why the thread was closed? Swedes. We're not racist. Also Swedes. I bet they were immigrants. That's, if the comment section consisted of that, maybe that's why the thread got closed. Oh, yeah. No, liberal and nuance does not work together. Private schools are known for not acting on this kind of stuff. Oh, great. Here comes a socialist turd stain that has to talk about the dangers of privatization. Well, guess what, cunt nuggets? I've only gone to communal schools, and they acted exactly like this towards me. And when I read about other people's accounts and experiences, it's both private schools and public schools, because they're all Swedish schools. Great job on contacting the police. That's always my recommendation to parents who tell me their kids have been abused in school. It's not bullying, it's a crime. Okay, so you're always giving the recommendation to parents to go to the welfare boutique bitch, meaning the police? Remember how that's... Ah, great. Yeah, there's not much more to say here, other than lol. I have his comments here. I seem to recall there was something interesting. Oh. With regards to the privacy of the other kids, we actually consider that sacred. Yeah, this is just an update. Oh, it's a state school, funded by the state. So, that's there. We've given her the option to choose schools. We'll back whatever choice she makes. We told the gym teacher she won't be attending gym until the safety measures are improved. I now have had a reply from the gym teacher. Finally! He responded, because it's not the weekend anymore, who was very apologetic and said, there's too many kids in too big of an area, so it's impossible for me to keep them all safe all the time. Well, guy, you just snazzed my reaction right out of my... That created more questions than answers, to be honest. I agree. Just a big what? What kind of a response is this to say? Yeah, you're so helpless, aren't you? Taught helplessness is Swedish culture by default. That's why you're seeing this institutional inaction, or whatever you want to call it. To make matters worse, this is a forest me and my daughter used to go foraging in together, so very much a place of happy memories. Yikes. Well, good luck forgetting about that one. The school has been terrible at dealing with bullying. She was asking throughout the day for updates. Knowing there was a police report seemed to lift her spirits enormously. That's a shame, because then she's going to get the police report, see what police do in Sweden, and I don't want to know what happens to her spirits at that point. You don't have to update me. I've had a few teachers reach out and tell me they don't check email over the weekend. Wednesday it is. Wow. They've never had to... He's talking about the two kids here. The two Swedish students. Never had to face any consequences for their behavior. Hopefully a visit by the social services makes them realize they went too far, but we'll see. Yeah, planning a rape ambush when you're in 7th grade to completely normal Swedish boys who have everything right in life. Yeah, that's normal, right? That's so normal. And then the welfare services, that's going to make them realize they went too far. Because they couldn't realize that during the whole planning out the sexual assault process. Yeah. Like I said, this guy's a liberal. This is the problem with anything liberal. Sweden is just what happens when liberals are and socialists are left in charge. So the reason why you're seeing the same thing in other states, in other countries, in other parts of the world, is because there are states that are left-wing. Even in America, there are left-wing states. In Canada, there are left-wing provinces. There are left-wing countries in Europe, and that's basically asking for the same thing, isn't it? The fact that Swedish culture is defined by liberalism and socialism is why you're seeing the same thing take place wherever there is these liberal essences of thought. The main advantage of doing all of this is that my daughter feels supported. That's why he went to the police. Yeah, well, that's all I got for you guys. Got a little character portrait of the two victims being coddled, like always. That's all Swedish people do. As parents, as teachers, they just coddle and don't do anything because that's what having a feminine culture is all about. Masculinity would entail self-discipline, consequence, limitation, structure. Clearly, that's not even a thing in Swedish culture of thought. So, that's all I have to say. Don't come here. I've been saying it for years for a reason, and I'm gonna keep saying it for as long as it's necessary, which seems to be every year I make a new video and more incidents come out. It's like I started talking about something 7 years ago, and it's just mutated and exploded all over the world. And I guess that's why the angry foreigner beats Reddit every single time. I always speak my voice. It was also easier in Denmark than in Sweden, but there was a time that it wasn't. So it's not too late to change some of the culture around speech, but it requires people to speak up. Yeah, so this is the part where I thank you for watching. Remind you about the donation link in the video description, the merch store, the social media links there, and read some of your comments before I retreat into the night to edit more videos for you this week. Now, this comment is interesting to me by Ronnie here because, let me make it a little bigger. Does this look good? Yeah, this looks good. Actually, let's put me here. Oh yeah, I can. Oh, this is much better. Now I can read your comments. So, like I said, I've been doing this for many years, and I've gotten many interesting messages of how I affect people with my channel and the consequences of encouraging people constructively to stand up for themselves, stand up for what's right, and kind of just develop a pain tolerance when you act to put an end to things that are wrong, right? So, for example, I've had students in schools tell me that started watching your videos. My class used to be very politically correct. Things felt kind of suffocated. Then I started speaking up, starting debate, changing the way people think, broadening perspectives, and now the class isn't politically correct anymore. Now we have a diverse, relaxed, freedom-loving atmosphere. I've had like private messages from students telling me in depth about how they went about to change the vibe in their classroom from a left-wing, totalitarian, politically correct, nervous space to more relaxed, wholesome space where you can see Swedish people's souls come out, right? Because that's what's lacking. There is no soul in this action here, right? You have people continually choosing to do what is comfortable instead of standing up for young people. They're choosing to protect the brand, for example, rather than being like, well, I'm gonna go have to have a very uncomfortable conversations with those parents of those two assholes. Whew. My brand is gonna suffer for a while, but so be it. That's not in there, right? The willingness to experience pain is not in there. So I definitely think that talking about problems in the right way, creating conversations with the right intention, can definitely be wholesome and it can kill political correctness if you do it right with the right finesse. Not in a shitposty way, but more in, well, for example, I even had students tell me that they have a left-wing teacher who, it's well known that left-wing teachers in Sweden will give you worse grades if you say anything good about the right wing or give two right-wing answers on your whatever. But this guy knows how to make his case, knows how to argue, good with language, so actually manages to impress his left-wing teachers with the way he stands up for his conservative standpoint. There's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things, and I strongly urge people to read the book by Dale Carnegie, How to Be a Good Speaker, How to Become Good at Public Speaking, something like that. That book taught me a lot. There's definitely how you approach things definitely matters. There's that, and there's, I mean, blatant trolling is more funny, but maybe that should be aimed at journalists rather than, yeah, totally. What is this? Notice me, Bosnian Snepai. No, I don't want to notice you. Do you support gun control resistance? Am I legally allowed to answer that question honestly? Who knows? But yeah. Yeah, I totally do. 3D printing is very interesting nowadays. Yes, it's about pushing the Overton window. That Overton window can be pushed quite a lot. It really can. There is a certain kind of Swede that isn't very good at talking, has a talent for putting your foot in the mouth, and wants to talk about immigration in the worst way possible, gets perceived as a racist, and then he says that there's a widespread cancel culture. I mean, there is, but there's also a lot more room and leniency to still navigate around a sensitive social space with a bit of integrity and stand up for what you believe in nonetheless. Knowing how to talk about topics is as important as actually talking about the topics. So there's nothing wrong with refining your talents there and being consciously aware to emphasize your intentions in your language. You want to have the basis of talking about why you care about society being stable and balanced and everyone doing well, rather than just jumping immediately into talking about demographics or something. This is one of the best channels in the entire world. We got a very wise one here. Glad I'm a subscriber and a donor. Thank you very much. You are a special man. Pin message. There we go. Yeah. Well, can you please make a video about the free schooler question? See, I'd rather make a video about school as a concept in general. It's definitely something that needs to be talked about. Because the debate in Sweden is very strange. Rarely criticizes the system itself and just tries to make it, should we have private schools or public schools? You can't make it that simple. Do you think we would have a better society if we had the same constitution as America and we were allowed guns to defend ourselves? Or are Swedes too pussy? No, actually, I think Swedes are too good at being law-abiding, and if you gave Swedish people the legal right to use guns in clear self-defense situations, I think they would do an exceptionally good job, and what people would come to realize is that really you want kind of a Switzerland model. I'm not sure if Israel does this too, but if you allow each citizen to own guns in their home, you know, handgun, shotgun, semi-automatic, that kind of stuff, rifle, if you allow them to own guns in their house, then you would basically have a decentralized national police. You would have a decentralized national army that can protect the country, protect their mutual future if there's ever a situation where radicals try to claim power. And that's something Swedish people should care about, given the rise in political Islam, given how even there's a genuinely scary Nazi presence in the country. People should be aware of that, and they should be aware of the potential in people working together. But instead, with the socialist culture of misanthropy, you worship government, you don't think the best of your neighbor, you don't even want to say hi to your neighbors, you don't think the best about other people, you don't trust them enough to give them the power and the tools in their own hand to create their own destiny and practice freedom. I think that's a huge problem. And I think the moment America gets rid of guns, it's done. Because there is nothing but stagnation where guns are not allowed in long term. You gotta have guns. They're incredibly important. Incredibly important. Or you can do what this guy said here. Dress your kids in bacon clothing. Gotta think outside of the box. That's a good one, Mr. Mansplainer. Sadly, I don't think it works when the perpetrators are Swedish. That just might end with them eating you afterwards. Do you believe that Ulf will ever find his spine? Ah, yes, our Prime Minister Ulf. Can I remind the dear audience here about how 4chan have made the ultimate Sweden meme, and what did they name him? Ah, yes, Ulf. The Ulf meme is Ulf meme. No, come on. How can you do... Oh, there's a lot of Ulf memes here. Right. It just... Ulf shows. Anti-Christerson, huh? That's a good one. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Ulf Carlson. Ulf Carlson, 19 years old, works for the government, finding luxury apartments for asylum seeker. Lives in working class apartment in relationship with autistic boyfriend, likes Islam, African culture, Marxism, feminism, and green tea. Hates Sweden, Europeans, capitalism, the patriarchy, the West, himself, USA, and barbarians who urinate while standing up. Yeah, it doesn't make me happy to point out how accurate this is. Yeah, very much, there's a big hatred against America here, even though America is a common place that Swedes emigrate to, so they still think it's better than their own country in some regard. They just don't want to own up to it, or they want to make it more like Sweden. So, great hatred for America. Anytime you want to talk about gun control, they bring up, well, you want to be like America? All those school shootings that take place in liberal states, where people aren't allowed to own guns so no one can intervene against the school shooters. Yeah, I want to be like America. Thank you. Barbarians who urinate while standing up. Do you know when I used to go to the public agency known as Arbetsförmedlingen, unemployment office, in the bathroom, there was a little sign, and it was a kind cartoon instructing you to sit down and pee, because that's what they do in public Swedish state buildings. I mean, these are government buildings with the official reflected ideology everywhere, and it tells you to sit down and pee because there's gonna be too much splatter if you don't, and it's just not hygienic. Sure. Who knew that 4chan is like right on so many things? How did you guys know this? Like, do you just have some kind of algorithm going in your head where you can kind of just deduce what happens when you remove masculinity from a man's body? What is going on? I don't get it. And I'm not going to pretend to. Sweden hasn't been to war in 200 years. Yeah, well, why do you think they haven't been to war in 200 years? They could have easily. They could have fought the Nazis, but they liked them so much they worked with them. It's not true that they haven't been to war. They've just been participating in any war that comes up by selling weapons to that war and funding the war, kind of like a Rothschild. Thank you so much for the donation, Angry Sweet Chili. Very kind of you. As you can see here in the chat, I've gotten 2 tonight. Yes. Scarce, but delicious. Hi, Angry. I'm excited for... How do you... Bookmessen? What's a messa? The book fair? Yeah, in case you guys didn't know, I'm writing a book. Basically gonna be your ultimate expat guide to Sweden. And it's gonna come out in Swedish on the 7th of October in Stockholm at Nya Bokmässan, Alternativa Bokmässan. But I don't know how to transfer the word. Book fair? A fair makes you think of a carnival, and I don't think I'm gonna be so lucky to find cotton candy there. Then again, who knows? Maybe the nationalists of Sweden want to take it a bit out of the box. Who knows? I'm not gonna be able to go there, but I hope it goes well. Well, thanks a lot for your support, financially and spiritually. I know it will go well with fans like you. I would like to thank you guys for watching this far, and be aware that there's gonna be many uploads showing up on my channel. So in case notifications are struggling for you, make sure to click like on my videos, because the more you click like on a channel's videos, the more the algorithms kind of pick up on it, and it changes your home feed. It basically changes your recommendations. YouTube leaves it up to the user themselves to realize how to mold and kind of manipulate how their home feed looks nowadays. So make sure to click like on my videos and visit my channel manually and peep in, because I have a lot of things planned for the future, and I try to upload a lot more regularly nowadays. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you a lovely evening. Take care of yourselves out there in Clown World.